I just want to, first of all, thank everyone for being here. And I think, the first word that comes to mind in this situation is just gratitude. And there's a long list of people, but obviously the Yankees are at the forefront of my mind right now. And just understanding that this is a tidal wave of decisions starting way before my time with, Cash hiring Kim Ng and Gene way before I was a thought. So I think this is really nothing new for the Yankees. It's just, how it's always been. They've been very progressive for a really long time. And obviously that's led to a lot of success. And it's just, I'm just, again, feeling a lot of gratitude for them, but also thinking back to the early days of my career with the St. Louis Cardinals and Pete Prinzi and Renee Pena hiring me as a strength and conditioning coach when there were no women around, so it was very much the dark ages in that regard. And they were really pioneers in hiring me as a female that was going to be working with all of the players and also making them run conditioning and do those things, which is very difficult. So, for them to put trust in me back then in 2012 and 2014, that was a huge step for me in my career. I think first off, I've been in baseball for 10 years, so it feels a little interesting to me that there's so much attention now, but obviously, society's changed, the world has changed, social media has changed. And so we're celebrating women in sports in general a lot more than we ever were in 2012 when I first got in. But also just the comments and, some of the negativity, which I hear more from my sisters than I actually read, but I think it's interesting. 3 years ago on this day, I was sleeping on a mattress that I had pulled out of a dumpster in Amsterdam. And 4 years ago, I was studying physics flashcards on the floor of a bathroom stall in the San Antonio Missions women's restroom because I wasn't able to fit in the clubhouse, and I think it's interesting to me because I don't understand the negativity. Like if you know my story and you have a pulse, I think it's pretty hard not to get behind what's going on here. And I just, if you know yourself and you know where you came from, it doesn't really matter, so that's how I kind of deal with the negativity or anything that I hear coming my way. It's hilarious to me because it's the American dream. There's definitely been some dark times in my career that I've been able to overcome myself and with support of those around me. So I think that everybody can enjoy a piece of my story. But then in my master's degree, a bunch of the guys that had played at New Mexico had gotten drafted. And, as many people don't know, I didn't know about the extensive minor league system and the Dominican Republic and winter ball. And I didn't know all of these things. And I just became honestly fascinated with the onion of professional baseball as a business and understanding the lengthy process and journey that these minor leaguers go through. And as a strength coach, I was hearing horror stories about eating hot dogs before the game and working out in the YMCA. And I just thought I was at LSU at the time, arguably the top of the SEC at that time, and just incredible resources, incredible facilities. And I thought, gosh, what's going on over there? So I really became intrigued with the minor league system. I think a lot of people's stories are, okay, I was a baseball fan. I want to work in the big leagues. I want to be in the show. And my passion was always in the lower levels and the journeys, especially of the Latin American players coming from the Dominican and Venezuela, and just how long their journeys are. So my passion was always with the minor league system. And funny story, I started to think about a career in baseball, and I just started Googling and found a website with a bunch of jobs posted, and all of the jobs were sending emails to men. And I thought, well, that's weird. I was so naive. I was like, well, that's weird. There are no women's names on here. And I went to my boss's office at LSU, Melissa Moore, and I said, Mel, do you know of any women that are working in professional baseball? And she just laughed at me. She was like, there are no women, strength coaches in any men's professional sport. Like, you're crazy. But I think me being naive is just a testament to my upbringing. My father and mother, they deserve an award. They literally raised 3 girls to be absolute hellions. And we didn't know. I literally didn't know that it wasn't possible. So by the time I was 23 and I found out that there weren't any women, I literally still was naive. And I thought, oh, well, I'm at LSU. Like, I have this great young resume for young coach, at that time. And I thought, oh, they'll hire me. And it was quite a bumpy road for a little bit there. But I think that naivete really helped me at first because I just didn't know what I was up against. And that was great, because I might have stopped. The story of me changing my name. So I'll try to make this short, but basically I had, fall of 2012, or even winter of 2012, to that point, I had done an internship at Exos, which is a premier private facility. I had done an internship at Arizona State. I had done an internship with the St. Louis Cardinals, a graduate assistant for 2 years at LSU, working basically full time there and getting my master's. I had been to Licey, Los Tigres de Licey, Licey Campeón. I had been there. I had this phenomenal resume for a young person, not just, I'd done 6 internships and all in baseball. And I had the Cardinals internship ended, and, it's an internship. So they're like, hey, we'll call you in 6 months, and you can never hang your hat on that. So I went out job hunting, and I had moved to Phoenix, and I thought, well, great, there's 15 teams in Phoenix. I can probably get a internship with one of those people. And there was probably 8 to 10 jobs posted. I applied for obviously all of them and just got crickets. So I actually got a job working as a waitress. I just started waitressing. I thought, wow, these jobs are really competitive. I thought I had a good resume. And lo and behold, middle of spring training, a team called me and they said, hey, are you still local? Like, one of our guys quit. We need a person like immediately. I had 2 interviews with him, went really well. He was like, you're our person. We're going to hire you. I'll call you tomorrow and we'll start the paperwork. And then I never heard from him. I was like, this is a little strange, so of course I followed up in every way that you could. I'm waiting tables, waiting to get this internship. And finally, several weeks later, he called me, and I'll obviously never forget this phone call, but he just said, hey, I'm really sorry it took me so long to get back. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but we're not going to be able to hire you. And I do want to let you know it's because you're a woman. And in that very moment, my level of naivete went from a 10 to a 0. I finally understood, and I was grateful that he told me, and he was apologetic. He was trying to be honest and let me know what I was up against. And he even said, my mom's a PhD. I don't have any problem hiring women. I took it to our leadership and they said no. And then I said, well, thanks for being honest. And he was like, well, it gets worse. And I thought, well, how could this possibly get worse? You just told me you were blatantly discriminating against me. And he said, I took so long to get back to you because I called all of the other teams that had jobs posted, and they also said the same thing. So that's when I would say the dark times really started. And I ended up waiting tables that year and doing an internship with Arizona State. And then finally, in that fall, Dale Torborg of the Chicago White Sox actually called me because I had been sending my resume to everyone, and offered me an internship to be with their Arizona Fall League team. Meanwhile, all these jobs are, that was just he made it very clear it's an internship. We don't have a full-time spot. So I was applying for jobs, and my sister, Stephanie, I will give her the credit, said, why don't you change your name to Ray and see what happens? And I was like, ha, ha, ha. And then I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So I did. And my hopes there was literally just to get someone on the phone, because I thought, well, they're seeing my name and they're not even calling me to talk to me and even see what I'm about. And I sent out my resume that year with my name as Ray, R-A-E, and got a lot of responses immediately. And my resume was great. I mean, of course I would get those responses. And I got a lot of responses immediately through email. Hey, we're interested. We're going to call you for an interview, et cetera. And then I finally got a phone call from somebody that I didn't know the number. I answered and they said, hey, we're looking for Ray. And I said, oh, this is she. And I was, of course, I was like, this is she. And the guy said, oh, well, there's like shuffling of papers in the background. And he said, oh, I just want to make sure I said your name correctly. And I thought, well, there's only one way to say Ray. You just didn't know I was a woman. So anyway, I was in a bad time to talk. And I said, hey, can we have this conversation tomorrow? And of course, I never heard from him. And then honestly, it was pretty short-lived that I changed my name, because at the end of the day, you just have to look yourself in the mirror and be like, well, if they don't want to hire me because I'm a woman, I probably don't want to work for those people. And if this takes years, then it takes years. And I was willing to wait. It got pretty late in that off season. I had already signed up for another internship to move to Boston. I have no idea how I was going to do that. I was broke as a joke. I had no money. I was going to move to Boston and sleep in my car in the wintertime. That was a bad idea, I'm sure. But I had gotten an internship at Eric Cressy's place, who probably is a familiar name in this crowd. And I was moving to Boston to do another internship, and the Cardinals called me back and wanted me to interview for the coordinator position. And I think when I actually got that job, I had $14 in my bank account. I called my parents and I was like, hey, I just made history. Can I borrow some money? Because I'm broke. I got to get to spring training. So it was a pretty rough year. And again, you just reflect back on those times, and it's unbelievable that I'm sitting here talking to you all right now, but I'm just so glad that I didn't give up. In 10 years, so little, it's like, I don't know if I've crossed paths with several thousand players personally right now, so little that it's not even worth mentioning. And I think that, the outside perception is always the thing. When players meet me, I think probably there's a level of curiosity, which that's normal. Change is change. I was curious. I'm like, geez, what am I gonna look like in a uniform? Like, I was curious, like myself. So I'm not gonna blame anyone for being curious or not really understanding the situation. But I just know within 5 minutes, I walk into the room, the presence that I have, how I speak confidently. I'm bilingual, and that's something that I learned. I wasn't born into I'm from Nebraska. I was not born into a bilingual home. I've worked to learn that. And so as soon as I open my mouth and start speaking, I'm speaking in Spanish and English, and they hear what I'm saying, and it's aligned with what everybody else is saying, and they know I know I'm talking about, it all just goes away. So it's just so fast. That level of curiosity is like, oh, okay, it's not a big deal. And that's on the inside. The players that I've worked with, whether they like me, they don't like me, they like what I'm saying, they don't like what I'm saying, I do feel like they respect me. And at the very least, they know that I'm passionate, hardworking, and I know what I'm talking about. Whether they like it or not, is a different story. And every coach goes through that. So it's been so small. I think most of the times it's outside perceptions. It's people who haven't met me, who don't understand how a woman could get the respect of these young guys. Like, that's fine. I don't need that. I have players texting me right now saying congratulations and how happy they are. And it's like, okay, I don't need to have other people understand it. It's just focusing on the Yankees and the players and the coaches within the organization. There's a lot of things that have worked and a lot of things that haven't worked. And I think that's the story with any coach. And so I really think, as a coach of young men or just young people in general, being direct and being clear about your standards and being clear about what you want is probably going to end up pretty well. Being honest and upfront is really kind of my style. And I think anyone who's worked with me or for me or whatever would agree with that, is that I'm pretty direct and just straightforward about what I want or how I feel about what's going on. And I think that, might be painful up front, but ultimately leads to really fast moving conversation about, things good or bad. So I would say my leadership style is definitely very direct. My goal is to know, really to know the names of the girlfriends, the dogs, the families of all the players. My goal is to develop them as young men and young people who have an immense amount of pressure on them. My goal is to support the coaches that are on the staff, who are going to be talking more, nuts and bolts of pitching and hitting with them and defense. It's really just to be a supporter and to facilitate an environment where they can be successful, and just design the environment, and let the rest take care of itself. So it's really just focusing on the person. And obviously you need good knowledge. You need coaches that know what they're doing and can communicate well. The data and the information that we have can communicate that well to the players. And in this role, it's, I'm more of a facilitator. And I know I'll still have a heavy hand in hitting, but also it's more of a leadership position. And that's what I'll be focused on, just to get to know the guys as well as I can, so they feel comfortable. And like I said, ready and able to handle the amount of pressure that they have every day in their lives. I don't think you sign your name on the dotted line to do something like this and then say, well, I don't want to be a role model. I just don't subscribe to that. People ask, why are you on social media and why this? And it's like, I want to be a visible idea for young women. I want to be a visible idea for dads that have daughters. I want to be out there. And it's just, I have 2 jobs, and that's fine. I'm pretty sure, Jackie Robinson didn't sign up for his job and then go, oh yeah, I don't want to sign autographs. It's like, it's part of my job, and I take that very seriously. It's something I'm really passionate about. And I know the impact because, like I said, I was very lonely, and I did have a few people that I was looking towards. And Sue Falsoni with the Dodgers was a physical therapist hired by the Dodgers before I was hired as an intern strength coach a few years before. And I'm not afraid to say I was obsessed with her. I was, any article I could get my hands on, any video, any interview, I was locked in, because I was like, okay, this is my hope. And so I knew how important that was for me. And I know that I have to do that for other women, and I want to do it. So it's something I'm very passionate about. And I don't think I really have an option. It's my job to do that.